Guys,
howdy brothers.
Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey and Water.
You may notice something is different this week.
Something is different. I may sound different. I may look different if you're on YouTube.
I may sound different. I may look different. And that's because I have COVID.
She has COVID, guys, but it's okay. She is doing well, alive, thriving. And we haven't done a remote recording in a long ass time.
This is literally just bringing me back to like the quarantine days.
Quarantine, I know.
God.
Kind of
let's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, little PTSD moment. It's fine.
Everything's fine. But you guys, nonetheless, we may be Zoom recording, but we have an incredible episode for you guys today. Seriously, like one of my most favorite conversations that we've had in a while, actually. And we have on Nadya. She is co-founder of August, which is a period movement company, and she is just incredible. Graduated from Harvard, wrote a book, but we get all into it, and she's
a gem.
She's a gem, and like she just does herself justice, and I feel like even trying to explain her just won't do her justice. So
yeah,
make sure you listen to the whole episode. It's really special, and we talk a little bit about mental health and just a lot about entrepreneurship, a lot about like having a startup and like what that journey looks like, and a lot about the period power movement, and it's just a great conversation.
Yeah, but before we get into that, let's do a little catch up, brother. Last week, Liv had to do the intro by herself.
Yeah, speaking of periods.
Yeah, because your girl was down very, very bad. I need to listen to that intro because I don't know what it was like. I felt so bad.
It was definitely, I haven't listened to it back. It was very awkward. I didn't know what to say. I was rambling. I'm sorry, guys, for last week's intro. I just apologize. I'm sorry.
Carrying the team on her back. Because I was not okay. I was like on my shower floor, just in pain. And that was honestly like, I thought I was going to be fine because the past 2 months, it hasn't been as bad. And then, I don't know, I guess this month just like made up for lost time.
I kid you not, like while I was recording the intro, she was quite literally on the floor of her shower, just like crying.
Yeah. God, it's so shitty, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking about having my uterus removed. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, interesting. But I'm like doing the intro and I'm like, I don't know what to say. This isn't the water show. This is the whiskey and water show. Like, it's so awkward. Don't listen to it.
Okay.
But how are you with COVID? Like, what has been your symptoms? What has been your experience? For those who don't know, this is her second time getting it.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like I'm being interviewed by you now. I'm like, my experience with COVID.
What's that been like?
So yeah, this is my second time. I'm going to answer just dude, when I posted on my stories, the amount of fucking questions I got, and it's because no one talks about it.
It's because no one admits that they have it.
No one admits that they have it because they're more than likely probably fucking ignoring it, which is another thing that I gotta say. But so I started like feeling kind of like it felt like I had allergies or a cold, and which isn't uncommon for me, but I posted about like not feeling well. I was like, yeah, I just had an allergy attack, blah, blah. And this girl messaged me and she was like, oh, be careful. Like, I thought I just had allergies too. And it was COVID. My main symptom was like my nostrils were burning. And I was like, ooh, kind of feeling that. But which it's not also uncommon for me once I like sneeze 30 times for my nostrils to hurt. But whatever. I was like, okay, let me just like be precautious and go ahead and take a test anyway. So I Uber Eated a test from CVS, like one of the rapid ones. And I did that, and it comes with 2 in the pack, and I tested positive both times. So I was like, okay, this is not what I was expecting, but whatever. So I just began to quarantine. I took a PCR test the next day. And I just got those results back this morning, actually, and it did come back positive. I've felt pretty good. Otherwise, like I've had a few different like sort of symptoms, like, but I mean, I could still taste. I'm just like a little bit congested. My voice is like a little bit raspy. That's pretty much it. I mean, like, I don't know. It's really interesting because like the first time I got it, which was in July of 2020, I was definitely really sick, like fever, body aches, chills. Like I was really concerned. And that's why I didn't even think that I could have even had it this time, because I didn't know I would know.
Yeah.
So it just really manifests differently each time. So just make sure that you guys are being careful, and that you're testing, even if you're a little bit concerned. I had a lot of people message me after I posted about it, and they were like, oh, what test is that? Like, I think I need to take it. And like multiple people went and got that test and then told me that they were positive. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy out here in the streets, and I'm like thankful. I'm assuming you don't have the Delta variant, because I don't know, from what I've heard, that is like way worse, even for
Really?
people who are younger. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
I mean, that's why,
I would
like,
assume it's the Delta variant, because I think that's like the only one that's like circulating really right now.
no, it's definitely both, and the Delta is
Yeah.
like much worse. Yeah, I
Oh
forget
my
that you like don't watch the news.
Oh yeah, no, I don't do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, the reason is that COVID is like back and bad again is because of the Delta variant, because it's like so abundant.
That's probably what Macy has. Like Macy has it right now too, and
She's down bad.
She's been real sick.
Really?
Yeah, she
Still?
took a Z-Pack though, and I think that she's like just now starting to feel better.
Yeah, it's scary, guys. Be careful. Wear your masks. I was actually with Jess recording last week's episode on Tuesday, and she found out she was positive on Friday
or something. Yeah.
On Friday, and I was actually on set for the Disney commercial in Orlando, which is exciting. But of course, I let production know, and they sent someone to my hotel to rapid test me twice, and I was negative. I am vaccinated.
She also is vaccinated. Yeah, that's another question I got a lot. I am not currently vaccinated. There was like a couple reasons I was just putting it off. One of them being like a medical thing. So I just wasn't in like a rush, because like, you know, whatever. I probably in hindsight should have gotten it sooner. And then everyone, oh my God, when I posted about that, everyone's like, you can still get it if you're vaccinated. I'm like, get, this is not political. Get the fuck off my case. And, you know, my body, my choice.
Yeah.
And that's where we stand about it.
Yeah. And I'm definitely like, you know, I was in that boat. I debated for a long time about the vaccine, and I truly think it's everyone's own discretion to do what they feel is best for their body. You know, I definitely was very much pressured by friends and family, and I was like, I will get it when I feel ready to get it. And that's
and
I feel comfortable with my decision, knowing that I did it on my own terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I feel like a lot of like the controversy comes from, not to make this like a political vaccine thing, but you know, it's like Biden is like enlisting the help of, you know, TikTokers to help spread the message. And, you know, that's just not like sitting right with people. And understandably so. I do understand both sides. I am pro vaccine because I'm pro us getting back to fucking normal. But I can also appreciate people's, you know, autonomy to do what they want with their body. But I also feel like that has to come with some repercussions. Like, you know, if you're not going to be allowed in some places because of that decision, then you also have to, you know, take the L.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been like a really, I'm kind of glad we're touching on it, because we haven't.
Yeah.
And although, you know, that's not really our brand, it is important, and it is like the current times and just like the reality of what we're dealing with every day.
Yeah.
And I had a really good conversation with my mom about it, because she was definitely pressuring me for a long time. And I finally sent her, you know, like a video of a girl having like really bad side effects in the hospital, tremors, whatever it is. And something just clicked for her, and she was like, I get it. And like, I don't know why this made it click, but she was just like, I get it. And like, you're so right. You've been so right. This is a decision you have to make for yourself. And although, yes, there's the stance that like, you know, get vaccinated for your country so we can get back to normal, get it for other people. It's also like people who, other than like the really crazy anti-vaxxers who think we're getting microchipped, like that aside, we do have to have an open conversation about the side effects and the risks that are real, that are associated with, you know, putting something in your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's something to be discussed, and I feel like we should just have people should have more of an open conversation about it and not be so biased, because I feel like people who don't want to get vaccinated, it's not because they're assholes, it's not because they're degenerates, and it's not because they like hate humanity and like don't believe in science. It's just because they're trying to do what's right for their body. That's what, at least like what my stance was, and most of the people that I talked to. So yeah, I just encourage everyone to, you know,
Do your own research.
Do your own research. And, you know, I know this causes a lot of tension with friends and families and relationships. And I encourage everyone to look at it in a different light and just respect. What you can do is show people facts, you know, show people facts and try to encourage them, but don't ever, I feel like you shouldn't really force it on someone. Then God forbid, and then you have to live with that. So
yeah, exactly. And you also don't know like what people are going through with their own bodies. Like I know that people with autoimmune diseases can't get the vaccine and, you know, just things of that nature. And, you know, people don't always wear all of their diseases on their sleeves and, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. Wear your masks, wash your hands, don't go to crowded parties, and that's our piece on that.
Period. No pun intended.
No pun intended. In other news, shooting for Disney was really fun, even though they did give me a pretty low rate considering it's Disney.
Yeah, but the fuck Disney.
It's fine. Like, it helped that it was like a really fun job, really fun cast, and like what I was doing was fun.
We both got casted for it. Olivia ended up getting it, but it's okay. We weren't in competition.
You did get a callback though.
I did get the callback,
and you were definitely for the Pixie role.
This is fucking bullshit. How was the Pixie there?
She was really sweet.
I would have been the better Pixie.
She was really sweet.
That would have been fun if we had gotten to do that together.
It would have been so fun. Well, she was like the Tinkerbell, so we were like, yeah, I know. It would have been great. Whatever.
And I got the callback too.
Our day is coming, but it was good and it was fun. Unfortunately, I was dealing with a loss, so that was interesting, dealing with that and like having to really compartmentalize and be a fairy during the day and then be like alone in my hotel room sobbing at night. That's been interesting. I feel like I need to like dedicate a whole YouTube video to it. You know, I don't know.
Do you want to talk about your loss, like who you lost? It's hard.
Yeah.
No, it's still very fresh.
You don't
have to talk about
I'll dedicate a YouTube video to it. But I'm like doing okay. I'm getting back to work, and what I'm finding a really hard like time adjusting back to is like posting on social media. That's like where I feel like it's tricky for me because it is my job and I do have like literally like contractual agreements that I have to like get that I'm behind on, and I just feel it's so weird. Like
it feels ingenuine.
It feels ingenuine, and I know our audience can relate. You know, like there's a lot of people who have lost a lot of people in their lives, and it's just there's a lot of like guilt associated with getting back to normal life, so that I am struggling with. But it's getting better, and I've been like with the family like pretty much every day, so that's good. And you know, we all have a really good support system, and it just, if I'm gonna say anything about it, it just really puts life into perspective. And the way he passed was so sudden and so abrupt and out of nowhere, and it's taught us all just to live life every day, like, you know, do the things that make you feel alive, call the people you want to call, like make the fucking plans with the people you love. Like, don't talk about the plans, make the plans. Don't talk about the trip you want to book the fucking trip. And I know there's a lot of like privilege and money and resources associated with that, but just life can be so short. So just do the things that make you feel alive, and don't take any day for granted. And that's that.
Heard.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. So yeah, let's get into our episode. Before that, we're gonna take a quick sponsor break.
Not me correcting her.
A quick sponsor break, and then we'll get into the episode, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right, guys. You know it's dump truck season. You guys know I've been on my grind. And I'm so excited to talk to you guys about Rsp Nutrition. I've been trying out their products for the last couple weeks in anticipation of working with them, and honestly, I love the products. I've been using their protein as well as their Amino Lean. I've been using the flavor blue raspberry, and it is so good. Amino Lean is an all-in-one energy and weight management product. It's made by Rsp Nutrition, which makes clean, active nutrition products. It has so many benefits, and it contains essential amino acids, which is a building block for lean muscle building.
Yeah, and personally, my favorite is knowing that it is natural caffeine, so there's no jitters, there's no crash, and it has zero sugar, zero carbs, and zero calories, and we love that.
Hell yeah, brother. It can be taken as a coffee replacement or as a pre-workout or an anytime boost of clean energy. They also have a
Yes.
few different flavors, which is blackberry pomegranate, mango, pink lemonade, and so much more. They're also currently the #1 pre-workout for women on Amazon, and they're
Bow, bow,
also
bow,
in
bow.
Whole Foods. Whole Foods just picked them up, and they're in every store, so you can get it there as well.
Check it out. All right, guys, we are here with Nadya. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have you on and talk all things, everything, period, your company, your book, all the amazing things that you're into right now. For our audience who doesn't already know you, tell them a little bit about yourself and like just what you do, and then we'll get into how you got here.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Nadya. I am 23 and based in New York City, and I'm the co-founder of August. We make like more sustainable tampons and pads, and we just launched like a couple months ago, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, I've been menstruating for about a decade. I'm on my period now.
Love
And
that.
yeah, excited to be here.
An icon, to say the least. So I see you graduated from Harvard.
I did.
We love
a
an
few
intelligent
months
queen.
ago.
We love an educated queen. So I'm curious to know what you studied while you were there.
I studied sociology.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what led you into like the period movement?
Oh my gosh. Well, I got really passionate about periods as like a more of like an activism thing when I was 16. And it was really just learning about period poverty directly from homeless women and hearing their stories of using things like toilet paper, socks, brown paper grocery bags, and cardboard to take care of their periods. And actually just Googling and learning about things like the tampon tax, which was in 40 states and now is in 30 states, but is a sales tax on period products, considering them non-essential goods. So it's really just learning about the issue and kind of the inequities that continue to exist around periods, and just got really passionate about it. And I mean, same thing, I think every single day I further understand how stigmatized periods are and the effects of period poverty more and more every day, and kind of the surrounding stigmas around overall like reproductive health. Yeah, and it's the thing that I'm like obsessed with.
I love that. Like, what a niche. But it's
Someone's got to do it. She's
someone's
doing
gotta,
God's work.
yeah, literally. And like, I love that it's like it really is such a taboo thing. Like, no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to, see things about it. And I love that you are here as a 23-year-old Harvard fucking grad on TikTok, just like shoving it in people's faces and being like, deal with it. It's fucking human. Like,
Destigmatizing it. And I think it's such
yeah.
an important conversation to have, because it's so taboo, and it's so like, taboo is just the perfect word. We grow up and
Yeah.
we are like constantly hiding our periods, like you couldn't walk to the bathroom with a tampon in your hand. Like you had to like put it in your pocket or like put it up your sleeve or,
Yeah.
like do something creative so that people didn't know that you were on your period. And I just think that it's so stupid, because it's like, why are we hiding something that every, woman goes through?
Yeah.
But I think that's amazing. So I am curious, so you started, I know that you have period movement and you have August. Which one kind of came first, and what kind of led you into deciding that, tampons and pads were like the direction that you wanted to go? And I'm kind of just curious about like the business side of that.
Yeah, so I'm actually not involved with Period the nonprofit anymore, but I started it when I was 16 with honestly no conception of the fact that this could be like a fucking career. Like I think that a lot of people think that like I started out being like, I'm gonna create a period company and write a book, but like when I started, I really thought it was just like this thing I was gonna do on weekends, right? Like at that point I still wanted to be a public defender, and then I wanted to be like an obstetric surgeon because I loved Grey's Anatomy. And I think that for me, like I started Period the nonprofit because it felt like I don't know, just like the kind of common sense thing to do for me. Like, I want to take action. I want to get period products into people's hands who need them. Okay, that's kind of like a charity. A charity is a 501c3 nonprofit. I'm going to do that, right? And then through my work, it just, again, felt kind of like, I feel like my whole career in entrepreneurship journey has always felt like, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm just going to kind of do whatever the natural next step feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing all this advocacy, doing, a lot of social media work, because social media was this free thing in front of me to raise awareness. And then it kind of felt like a natural next step to write a book. And then in writing my book and growing my organization, I was working a lot with companies, from corporate sponsors, working on product distribution. We then started distributing millions of products at a time. And I was just kind of getting really to know about what the products were, where they came from, what supply chain was. And at the same time, I was writing my book about kind of the responsibility of brands and companies in the overall space of changing the stigma. And then a couple years ago, it just kind of felt like, okay, like not that I outgrew the nonprofit work, but more like I felt like I had done it for 6 years, and I felt like I had really given and grown as much as I could. And it had kind of almost outgrown me. Like, I needed to find someone who had more experience and replace myself as executive director, specifically in the nonprofit space. And I was like naturally kind of inclined to continue the overall work on the brand side. So yeah, I would say the August really came after it, and it's been a really unexpected and a really fun journey.
I love that. That's awesome.
So friggin' cool. Yeah, and I love how things kind of just like, it seems like things really naturally kind of evolved. And I really love what you said about your whole journey as an entrepreneur and kind of not knowing what the fuck you're doing, but just taking the next big step, like the next best step. And we talk about that all the time. Like, our audience is very, invested in female entrepreneurship and just women in business in general. And that's something we're always telling our audience is like, you don't have to have this very clear vision. Like, that can be so overwhelming, and then so overwhelming that you don't even take the next step. Mm-hmm. So just look at the 5 feet in front of you and just do what's best right now. What would be your best insight for someone who like is in that place and is struggling with like what's it called when they're like
analysis paralysis?
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Exactly. What would be your best insight for them?
I mean, I think it's exactly what you said, which is, I think for me, I get really overwhelmed in entrepreneurship or just like doing anything when I think about like the long term, right? It's like my PTSD, which starts catastrophizing. And I used to do that actually a lot with grades of like, if I got a B in high school, I'd be like, well, now I'm never going to get into college, and then I'm going to be unemployed for the rest of my life. And then I'm never going to get, like, it's
yes,
like,
yes, I can relate.
Catastrophizes and spirals. And for me, it really is like, okay, no, the immediate, like, of what do you need now? Like, Jessica, you had mentioned like having a panic attack yesterday. Like, I had a panic attack this morning for like a couple hours, and I was just like freaking out, and it was work related. And I was just like, I kept perpetuating this panic where I was like, well, now what? Like, now the company's going to go under. What am I going to do next? Like, what's the next career? Like, I don't have school to fall back on. Like, it's just like the kind of craziness of anxiety. And at the end of the day, I just had to kind of shut it off and be like, right now, I just need some fresh air. Like, I'm just going to go for a walk. And then it was like, okay, like, now I really need to just go work out. And now it's like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and talk to my new friends on Zoom and knit. So my like anxiety like is coming out of my body, and we're just going to get through it. And that's just what I need right now. And I'm just going to try to be as present as possible. And I think that it's like the analysis paralysis, whether it be in your personal life, but even like in work, right? Like with work, for example, like one of the biggest challenges right now, I think for a lot of consumer brands is, like there's been all these iOS changes around like data privacy, which is really exciting, but it also means it's completely changed how companies have access to consumer data, right? So now it's like freaking out, which is like everything that's been done before of studying consumer data to then implement strategies, like we don't have insight into, right? And so for me, it's just, okay, living in the moment, being like, okay, what do I know right now? And what is like the best next step I can immediately take? And honestly, like that has been how I've made like my biggest career decisions, right? Like for me, if I were to think long term, starting a new company is like potentially really irresponsible, right? It's like very high risk, high reward. But if I think about it like right now, like this is what I want to be doing and this is what gets me excited. And I think for someone with extreme anxiety, like trying to have that more narrow, like thinking in the short term and what I want to do now and what like following my gut instinct is like the most important thing.
I love that. And I think it's so important to like have that balance of having like amazing goals that you would like to reach, but not necessarily having them so like written out that like you like paralyze yourself because you don't know what those next steps are. And I love that there's this like kind of like I don't know, it's like a theory that goes around, and it's like make sure that you're just getting 1% better every day. And I think that that's like the best thing that we can do is just kind of taking those little steps that are just going to make us a little bit better every day. And then by the time we look back, we're going to realize that, you know, we're 50% better, we're 100% better, rather than, you know, being like, well, I want to become a millionaire by the age of 28. And it's like, how the fuck am I going to get there? And then you end up like doing yourself a disservice because that's, you know, it's just not either realistic or, you know, you just do yourself a disservice by setting those kinds of goals.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I love what you said so much. And I just want to like, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable with us. And like, I don't know, there's something so special about creating a safe place for like women to be vulnerable and like have these conversations and be like, yeah, I had a panic attack this morning and now I'm here. Like, I really like, I honor that so much. And I know our audience appreciates it too, because I think, you know, we see the label of entrepreneur and we see author and we see, you know, Harvard grad.
Founder and
yeah. And, you know, we associate ourselves and we wrap our identity up in these titles. And it's like, I think people are like, oh, well, once I am an author, I'll be happy and successful and not have anxiety. And it's like, I love that we're like, no, everyone is just human, no matter how many titles you have, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many businesses you start, like we all struggle with the same human issues. And I just really respect and love that. So thank you for being open with us.
Thank you for like creating the space. I mean, new friends on Zoom. That's what I said.
That's all this is. A bunch of new friends who are listening in, like flies on the wall in our conversation. No big deal. It's fine.
I would say that one of our like biggest compliments is when people are just like, yeah, I just feel like I'm on a phone call with my friends. Like that. I love that. And that's what we strive to do. And I love that you were like, yeah, I'm just sitting here knitting. Cause I was like, what is she looking at? I was like, does she like doesn't want to make eye contact? And it turns out you're just fucking knitting the scarf down there.
I love it. It is so great.
So I just got diagnosed with ADHD like last year, and like I've always had PTSD hand tremors. So like my hands will shake and like I get these like really bad hand cramps. And then I just like, I'll knit on phone calls. And so like, even when we were raising our seed round and I'd be on the phone call with like some big VC guy, I'd be like here being like, so we really need to talk about periods and like with my knitting too. And it's just like, I'm sorry, this is what I gotta do.
It's so Gen Z. Like, I just love it. Like if this doesn't explain it, I don't know what does. So good. Like, I love this. I'm curious to know what it was like on the creative aspect and kind of like the technical aspect of actually creating like a product that you can hold in your hand. Cause we've had a lot of people on who sell like virtual products and ebooks and workshops and things like that, but we haven't had many on who sell physical products. So yeah, I'm curious to know your experience with that and maybe like the challenges you ran into.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the biggest challenge to start with is that we started a product company in COVID, right? When like all of a sudden there's a global pandemic, nobody knows what's happening with shipping times, right? Like the idea of manufacturing anything, people getting sick around the world, right? And, you know, from a product manufacturing standpoint, actually, like the best, most sustainable products we could find were manufactured overseas, right? So the idea of doing anything overseas during the pandemic was like really hard. And I think from a COVID perspective, it was really important to us that we were confident about all of our materials being ethically sourced. And part of being able to do that is you're doing these like third-party kind of inspections. And we had to like really make sure that we were doing that and getting full reports because we couldn't fly there and be there, you know? And so we had to like make sure that we were investing in that. I would say that it's a very expensive upfront cost to create products. And so another challenge was like, we needed to then go raise capital, right? Like I just graduated college a couple months ago. My co-founder just graduated college a couple months ago. And, you know, we're not first-time founders. Like we actually just both exited like our first business together. But at the same time, like, we're not rolling in dough that we could like self-fund it. So we needed to go raise our seed round. And I honestly had no idea what the fuck a seed round even was a year and a half ago. I didn't really know like what venture capital firms were. I didn't know the difference of those versus angel investors. Like it was a really steep learning curve where I was honestly watching a lot of fucking YouTube videos and reading books on it and like wiki hows. Basically on like how to raise money, because I've raised money, you know, of course on the nonprofit side, never on the for-profit business side. And then in terms of creating it, you know, tampons specifically are medical devices, so they all have to be FDA approved. And so a lot of it was just like combing through the options and then just doing a lot of Zoom calls with as many young people as we could to understand what they thought could be better about period care.
I love that. And for people who,
I'm curious to know what that was too.
Yeah,
like what they thought could be better.
And I'm curious, like the route that you did go, would you mind just like letting our audience know what like a seed round is? Because
yeah,
I mean, you're really one of the first people that we've had on that kind of speak super candidly about that process.
Yeah. So our products, most period products take 5 to 8 centuries to decompose. Like a maxi pad has anywhere from enough plastic for 3 to 5 plastic bags, right? So, and you know, like when you have pads, they like kind of sound like plastic, you know, it's like that crinkling sound. Our products don't have any plastic in them. Like our pads, they're 100% organic cotton and they're fully biodegradable in 6 to 12 months. And so they're softer and a lot more absorbent. And then our tampons have a BPA-free, like recyclable applicator. And we made the applicators long and rounded at the top so they're easier to insert. They open axially so they're more comfortable and absorbent. You know, the string is more like kind of, you know, braided together. And so it doesn't come apart. We're not using any synthetic materials. Like it's kind of a lot of these small things that we might not think about. But when you try our pads, like I'm wearing our super tampon right now and our liner, like it's just the world of a difference to like not have so much plastic between your thighs, right? Like we don't really think about it, but and so our products, it was really about that. And then also improving the overall experience of making it customizable, personalized period care that delivers to your door right when you need it, is tax-free. So we cover the tampon tax in the 30 states where it still exists. And every purchase has a product and monetary give back. So we're like really generating impact through that consumerism. And in terms of a seed round, like, so think about it in the sense of when you buy product, when you're going to make product, you have to go, if you're going to sell product, you have to go make the product. And in order to make product, it's not, we didn't drop ship it, right? So it isn't like you order it and then we go make it because you ordered it, right? It's like, no, we had to go innovate on the product, make it, and then we had to buy a minimum quantity of them, right? So we had to buy like a minimum of, you know, maybe a few million tampons and pads that we then go to a warehouse. So it's very expensive upfront costs. And so basically you have to go, unless you can self-fund it, you have to go raise money for it, right? And so as a company, like, the difference between a for-profit company and a nonprofit is that someone can actually own the company, right? And so you have like a set number of shares and you basically, you know, dilute and give up a certain number of shares in return for people investing in the company. And so we had to go out and convince people that we were a worthwhile investment and, you know, basically say, you know, we have this bigger vision. We think that we can grow this. We believe in the idea and we're looking for values aligned partners. And we ended up raising nearly $2 million for our seed round.
Wow. That's insane.
Fuck. Yeah.
And that's also, awesome. That has to be so much pressure too.
Yeah.
Like convincing people that, you know, you are where they should be investing.
I mean, I think raising capital has honestly been one of the most exhausting and terrifying experiences because at the same time, it's also like constant rejection. And it's not rejection like when you're dating and someone just ghosts you. Like, it's not that at all. It's like if they ghost you and then they then continue to tell you exactly why they don't believe in you and why they think you're not good enough and why you're not qualified, like, and it's that all the time. And I think that it was really exhausting, and at the same time it took us a long time to find female investors, right? Like, we really wanted women on our cap table, and if you look at the majority of angel investors and VC firms, it's like all old white men, and nothing against them, but like, we wanted to be like, if we're going to be a company for people with uteruses, people with uteruses should own the majority of the company, right?
Absolutely.
And so that was really important for us. But I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions, right? Like, I think that people hear that we raised $2 million and they're like, oh my gosh, Nadya's rolling in dough. And it's like, no, like, when you start a company, I don't have a salary. I haven't had a salary for like 2 years, like, it's a lot of, to your point, Olivia, like, all these different titles and like, oh, if you do this, you're happy, or like, if you do this, you're rich. Like, no.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, it's a fucking grind, and it is a lot of pressure. And me and my co-founder and my other fellow founders talk about it a lot, which is like, you raise money and then people are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing to celebrate? And it's like, yeah, we're going to celebrate, but also you're literally raising money so that you can go work. Like, I'm raising money because I'm begging, like, hey, I want to go work now,
Yeah,
So it's a lot of pressure, but it's really, really fun. And it's been really exciting to see how much we've been able to grow.
Yeah, that is so, I have to imagine it's probably one of the hardest things you've ever done, but also one of the most rewarding things you've ever done. Because, like, what a challenge. Like, the closest thing I have to this is like Shark Tank, where they're like pitching themselves, and like that pressure is just like really admirable. Like, if you can stand there and like pitch yourselves and sell yourselves and be confident, and like, it helps that you're so passionate and like, what you believe in. And there's like, it's like, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than you just wanting to make a buck. And I think that, I'm sure that helped in your delivery and your passion, and just like the investors believing you, because there's a bigger why to it. And I'm curious to know, like, how much of your past experience and your past work with the organizations and the book, I'm curious to know how much of a role that played in like convincing and not convincing, yeah, I guess, but like influencing your investors. Did they look at that and be like, oh, okay, well, she's an author and she, started this nonprofit? Was that a big part of it?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think that if you're going to give money to any sort of business person, right, the first thing you're going to look at is like, well, how are they qualified? What have they done? Right. For me, I think that it was a double-edged sword, right? Which is like, I had worked at a nonprofit. I've never made a product before, right? Like, I wasn't, if they were to say, okay, but what are your thoughts on global supply chain? And I'd be like, huh? And so we had to do a lot of research because there was a lot of gaps of knowledge, and we really had to go find the right mentors and advisors. At the same time, there were things that I was able to kind of tell a story around, right? Like, to me, the book wasn't like it helped convince them that I was a good CEO. I think the book was just part of my story. Like, if someone asked me like why I decided to start a company, it was like, well, I spent like 6 months just constantly researching the industry. Like, I was writing this book, and every time I was writing more and more chapters, I was like, oh my God, this industry needs to change, like, it was more of my personal story on it. And then it was like, I think social media is a big part of consumer brands. And I have, for the last few years, I was chief brand officer at a Gen Z marketing agency at Duke Consulting, and then also was, running this nonprofit where creating social media campaigns was a huge part of like my job, right? And I think similarly, like, they knew that if they, like, I think I was able to build credibility of being able to manage money, right? Like, as a nonprofit, all of your financials are public, and they could see like that I was capable of creating a sustainable organization that continues today. And I think also at the same time, like, I was always very honest. Like, I would say like, look, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. Like, I'm still learning. And I think part of trying to do business in a different way is that you're doing it in a way that's never been done before. And when you are young, and like, this is my first nonprofit gig ever was running my own nonprofit, right? My first time working on a political campaign was running for office, like that. I kind of have always learned by doing, and I've always had to be really straight up of like, I fuck up a lot, but it's kind of because like I'm learning on the job, and that's like kind of my biggest strength, and of course my biggest weakness.
Wow, really interesting. Yeah, we definitely talk about the concept of like doing like just doing it scared a lot, you know. I think so many people like they hold themselves back because they're scared of like doing something that they don't know, or something that feels foreign to them, something that's outside of their comfort zone. And we're always like preaching growth is right outside of your comfort zone. And like if you throw yourselves in those situations, like I really feel like anyone would impress themselves with the things that they're capable of if they just gave themselves a chance.
Not to mention paving the way. It's like it's so scary when there isn't like a roadmap that's already been laid out, and you can like see other people's fuck ups and be like, all right, well, I'm avoiding that, and I'm just, you know, going. And Liv and I can definitely, you know, relate to that. And when we launched our creative agency, like we're still like, you know, figuring shit out on the way. And we definitely are the type of people who also kind of learn on the go. But I think it's also about like being confident in yourself and your capabilities, and knowing that you are capable. It just takes, like how we, you know, said earlier, it's like putting one foot in front of the other and just doing that 1% each day.
Yeah. And I really love how you also mentioned how you were just like really honest with your investors and really upfront, and you're like, listen, I'm gonna fuck up. Like, and
Yeah.
and I think that's definitely with our new, like the generation coming up, I think they're a more honest generation. Like in general, just what I see on TikTok and just like what I get from Gen Z in general is that they're more willing to, because I feel like our parents' generation was very like, no, I'm perfect, I don't make mistakes, like I got this, I'm a professional. And we're very like, no, we fuck up because that's how we learn. Like, isn't that how everyone?
And that we're human.
Yeah. And like I just love that it was a very like transparent thing for you to be like, yep, by the way, because we talk about that all the time. Yeah, we talk about that all the time on the podcast. Like even when we were like when we were starting the creative agency, we were like, this is gonna be a huge learning curve for us, and we want to be super transparent with you guys and like tell you like where we're struggling with, like what things surprised us. Like of course you're going to struggle. Of course you're going to run into challenges. Like
no one has all the answers. Yeah.
How could you not? Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that, I mean, it was also interesting because I started raising our seed round, and then a few months in, I went to rehab, and I went to rehab for like PTSD and depression and just kind of having a mental breakdown. And I had to call my investors and say like, hey, I know I just like convinced you I was like a stable fucking person to invest in, but like I had a breakdown, like I'm going to inpatient care, like I might be back. And you know, we did have investors who like kind of pulled their funding, and they eventually all came back, but there were some where it was like a really hard conversation, which was like, okay, like let's put this on pause and we'll pick up when you get back. And to me, I think that that was like the biggest test of having really values aligned partners who, you know, weren't going to expect us to be these like robot startup people, but like humans, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that it's really shown us the importance of also like having a really important company culture where we are going to prioritize how people are doing, right? Because this is hard, and there are weeks that go by where it's like, is anything we're doing working, you know? And I think it's just about having a really, really supportive environment. And like, I mean, even the relationship between you two as co-founders, I think is so important.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most important, you know.
Yeah.
I like if you aren't happy at your company or in your, you know, partnership or with your boss or with your employees, like it really does take the biggest toll on you. And it's just the most like toxic thing. You know, we spend so much time at work and thinking about work, and, you know, like just so much of our headspace like is spent in the workspace, not only like our physical, you know, like actually being at work, but, you know, even after we log off, it's really hard to just like turn that off completely. You know, something bad happens to you at work, and a lot of the time you're taking that home with you, especially when you are your work, you know, when you're the founder or when you know, own it yourself. So having a healthy work environment is the most important.
Yeah, the most important. And just having people who work for you and work with you be happy to show up every day. And I also think that's something that's very like new with our generation, is that we're taking those things into consideration. We're talking about mental health. We're asking people, like you said, how you're doing, and like kind of valuing that over like like productivity in a way, because we
Yeah.
just understand that like happier people make, and that's not the, you know, intention. You obviously just want people to be happy, but also
Happier robots make more money.
but also at the end of the day, you know, I think any company will run better if your employees are just happy to be showing up and doing like something they love with people they love, you know?
I mean, and they'll also look forward to it more. I think just like the kind of overall excitement for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, you know, they'll be excited for the company's successes as well, because they'll take those things personally. I'm curious, where did the name August come from?
August means majestic dignity. And one of my mentors, Bobby Hundreds, who's an incredible streetwear creator, actually came up with it. And we just really fell in love with it as like a gender neutral name that really like stood for what we wanted to stand for.
I love that. Yeah, it's really unique, and it's like, it's great. I don't know. And I also love that it's like a month too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we literally had like the quirkiest ideas of like, you know, when we were looking at names, it was like, well, let's come up with every reason why we love this name. It was like, August is a month and your periods come on a monthly basis, and August is an autumn where like the leaves are falling, which is kind of like your uterine lining shedding.
Right.
And like we came up with all these ideas, and it was like a whole thing.
You're like, it aligns. It's perfect.
We actually had a guest on a few seasons ago who talked about periods, and she mentioned how like our cycle is very similar to like the seasons. And so that's like a familiar idea to us in our audience. I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And how is August going now? When did you like officially launch it? Like, of course we checked out the site, it looks amazing, but like, how is that process now that you're in it?
It's going well. We launched on June 10th, right?
Brand new.
Yeah, brand new, like literally a couple months. We got verified on Instagram today and hit.
It's a good fucking day.
Yeah,
let's go.
It's been exciting. It's also National Nonprofit Day. And so, you know, like any given day, we're kind of like trying to just kind of build with our community. So, I mean, it's been going really, really well. I think that, you know, again, it's like a steep learning curve every day. Nothing goes exactly as you plan it. Like everything is behind timeline. And I think that like the last year has just been like the biggest understanding where, you know, it's really interesting because I think when I started organizing in general, like in my career, I was always about deadlines. I was like, the thing that's going to set us apart is that like we actually get shit done, and like we're actually going to like be about deadlines. And my team knows now, like I do set deadlines, but I'm kind of more so from a company perspective and like building in COVID and like knowing that we're all going through mental health things. Like, and we're also like, I'm on my period and like I just need more rest. And like, it's also now I'm like less about hard deadlines and I'm like, okay, well, like this campaign needs to get done at some point. And so like, let's just work on it and see how it feels. And if we can get it done, you know, ideally by Friday, then that's great. But if not, we'll just pick it up next week. And like it eventually gets done. But it's been a really difference of how I used to be like kind of leading versus now, because I think that like with COVID, you just can't expect everybody to be working, or even like the overall industry. Like we can't even, like we literally have to account for like weather, right? Like when there's a storm, our products ship slower, you know, like, and so it's been really important for us to like learn how to be really forgiving with ourselves too.
Yeah, and have grace, and like, you know, the world and the earth, not to get like super spiritual, but like the earth doesn't work on a timeline. So it's like, why do we as humans and as a society feel like we have to attend and like be slaves to these hard deadlines and lose sleep over these hard deadlines? And I love that, because that's a really like, I feel like that's a really pivotal moment for you in your leadership style, like to go from being like really, you know, not that you're less structured, but really like hard on and set on that, to being more lenient and being more like relaxed. Because it's also, you want to look at it and be like, okay, what's the quality like of my work life here? Like, am I like stressing myself out, and is that stress worth hitting that deadline a day earlier than I would have, or or a weekend earlier, whatever it is? So
Or
I
even
love
like,
that.
am I stressing out my team, right? Like, you don't want everyone, like, I mean, similarly, how do you make it something where we're all kind of like excited to be talking with each other, which I think is especially important as like our company has been running on Zoom calls. Like, we haven't ever like been in the same room as a team. Like,
Wow.
I haven't met some of our team members, and I think even more so it's important that like, I mean, we all don't want to spend all of our days on Zoom, and so how do we make sure that our team meetings are like more enjoyable?
Yeah.
I love that. And just curious, as like from a business standpoint, what is like your like official position with August? Like, what are like some of your responsibilities as well?
So I am CEO and my co-founder is COO. So kind of think of it as he does all the things that make the wheels keep turning on internally, like, warehousing, all the shipping, all finance, all legal, like all of the operations that keep the wheels turning. And I really kind of oversee like, obviously company strategy, but also anything external facing. So everything you see on August, from marketing to, how we're going to build out community and how it integrates with, kind of overall communications. I mean, I think as a startup, everybody's like pretty hands on deck. Like, we're all kind of having to do everything. But we typically split roles in that way as like CEO and COO.
Gotcha.
Very, very cool.
And what are some like marketing practices that you've implemented that you feel like are going to be like the most fruitful for you, or like what do you feel like is setting you apart?
And especially to have like such a unique brand like you do, like I feel like you can't just follow like the cookie cutter marketing strategy that some agency is going to give you. So I'm definitely curious to know about that.
I mean, I think that we've really just thrown every marketing strategy in the past out the window, and I think part of our like pro right now is we're just kind of figuring it out as we go. I think a lot of brands feel like they need to be really polished, right? Like, if you think about like every ad campaign you've seen of periods, it's like a really expensive, well done ad, right? And like, we actually have really not spent much on creative at all, because like we just kind of make it ourselves. Like, I think we put out like 10 to 15 pieces of original content a day, and I think for us, like being able to pivot really fast and like also interact with and be in community with our people is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I see you guys on TikTok killing it. And I honestly feel like that is the best marketing strategy for you. Like, that's how you find your niche community. That's how you find the people. Like, literally, you type in hashtag like period power, period movement, boom, there's all of your consumers, it's such a concentrated place, and especially like the demographic on TikTok, it's those are the people who are going to care, like the 60-year-old white woman who's like going through menopause isn't like gonna be on TikTok looking at these things, but your consumers are. So I think that's a great idea.
And even speaking on TikTok, are you creating the TikTok content, or is there someone on your team that's doing that?
So we all kind of tag team it. There's like 3 of us that really do a lot of the content. I mean, I have like my own TikTok account too, and so obviously I'm doing a lot there. And since I'm on my period, I've been making a lot of videos like with my period blood. Actually,
I love it.
My boyfriend keeps saying like, what are you doing with your phone like naked in the bathroom? Like, I just got out of the shower, and I'm like, I'm making a TikTok.
I'm being creative.
And, like, he'll like hear the little like timer like poop, 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 like while I'm in the bathroom. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm on my period. Like,
you're like, leave me alone on my period.
It's actually,
I'm creating content.
I'm excited about getting my period because I get like excited about it. I'm like, I get to make so much period content. But it is a new thing. Like, I actually never ever showed my own period blood until 6 months ago.
And that's like obviously a really foreign concept for a lot of people, and you're speaking about it so candidly. So I'm kind of curious to know, like, what is that? One, what kind of content are you putting out there with the period blood? And then like, and how did you like have to become comfortable with that?
And not care about
it took me 6 years of having my full-time career being about periods to finally get comfortable with it. But I think it was honestly just like before my work always focused on just distributing products, right? So I was never, I was thinking about people using them, but like the focus was more about just making sure that they had the products and not exactly like the experience of using it.
Interesting.
And when we're creating product now and thinking so much about the personal experience, like I think about period blood and how it absorbs into our products constantly. Like that's literally my fucking job.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's less so that I got confident about it, and more so just like I've just been kind of obsessing over it, you know, in a good way. And in terms of what it looks like when I show, similarly to like, okay, you make videos of yourself using makeup products, I'll make videos of myself using period products. And yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. It's just that's it.
No, I love it. And it's like, it's one of those things that feels foreign and uncomfortable at first, but it's like the more you destigmatize it, the more people see that and they're like, oh, it's, you know, like what, it's hair. It's like, we don't think anything about putting shampoo in our hair. Like you see that TikTok and it's like, let's get to that point where periods are just normal.
Does TikTok let you show blood like that?
Every now and then. Sometimes it gets taken down. But I think it's also just thinking about how, like, you know, I'm not saying everybody should post their menstrual blood. Like, I don't think anybody should feel like that's not my goal. I'm just saying, like, I just don't think I should be ridiculed for doing so.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
And I think for me, it's also like, I've been really fascinated by just how many questions there are. Like, I recently posted a video actually of like a blood clot, and people were like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one. Like, we feel so isolated in this experience, and yet like we're all you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
totally.
There's a lot of learning that I think we're all doing. And like, I mean, even like today I was making a video about amenorrhea because these really young girls started posting like, I haven't gotten my period in 6 months, is that normal, right? And it's like, these are all terrifying questions that like we should feel comfortable asking.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I remember even growing up and like when shit started happening to my body, I thought I was dying. Exactly. I was like, this is cancer. I have cancer. Like, I remember when I first started developing boobs and like, you know, you felt like the little nubs that were like, you know, your baby boobs. I remember like wearing tight clothing to like try to like bring them down because I was like, oh, these are tumors. I've got tumors in my chest. I remember like genuinely thinking that I was going to die. Yeah. And I mean, especially for young women, like I'm so glad that I'm like an older sister to a younger sister because there was like so much that I was able to like shed light on for her and just normalize. And it's so crazy how taboo it is because, you know, little girls can't even ask like their parents about these types of things. Like there's no resources for them.
Well, now there is resources.
Yes.
We created actually Ask August with our community, which is like a free and searchable database of period health questions. And like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so if you go on, like you can type in anything and all the answers are vetted by our medical board, like all medical professionals. And we are constantly growing that database as well because we keep hearing new questions, right? And so, yeah, it's been really, really, really cool and really exciting to kind of keep growing that.
That is so fucking cool. I love everything you're doing. I know we have to wrap things up and I'm sad because I want to talk to you literally all day.
I know.
But yeah, this has just been such a really, really cool, honest conversation. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Like conversations like this, like truly like just re-inspire us in our show. And I'm like, okay, this is why we do it, you know? So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me and honestly for holding this space too.
Yeah. Before we let you go, we just have 2 final questions that we like to ask every guest. You can keep it short and sweet. The first being, what is your best biz pro tip? So it could be like a mindset tip. It could be your favorite app, literally anything you want.
For me, I think that my pro tip would just be to keep sleeping. Like I sleep like usually 8 hours a night and like I need that.
Love that.
I feel that. I sleep like between 8 and 10 hours,
that
honestly.
Is such great advice and no one has ever given it, so thank you.
Yeah, it's so we actually had a sleep expert on one time,
Yeah.
and that was really cool because we learned a lot about sleep. Okay, our next question before we let you go is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
My mom used to always say, like, to be a leader is to encourage, like, create opportunities for others to be leaders, and that really sticks with me.
Ooh.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, I've never heard that before, and I really love it.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
So good. Where can our people find you and follow your journey and keep up with you?
Just on social media, I'm just at Nadya Okamoto on social, and August is at It's August.
Perfect. And we'll have those linked in the description for you guys to go and check out. Guys, if you like this episode, please take a screenshot, tag us, tag Nadya, tag August. Please be sure to support her company because, we're all about that.
We're all about supporting queens.
Yes, supporting queens always. And we will catch you next week, brothers.
Bye, guys.